Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street. Multivac MTV is the video right now on the channel in front of your very eyes. Guys, before we go into this one, check out the other videos on our channel. Loads of different topics, loads of different projects, assets, and loads of rabbit hole conversations as well. Apologies for the lack of videos in the last couple of weeks with holidays and work going on, but we're in the swing of things. We're on the third or fourth video I think in the last few days, so MTV being a nice addition today. We've seen a bit of demand for an update on these guys from the audience, so let's go straight into this, guys. Now we've done the intro. So Multivac for me, as we know, very small and quick recap. I think we've been through this many times. Towards the end of last year, literally 8 months ago, can we believe that we're in the 8th month of the year already? Absolutely mental. We had a bit of a situation with Multivac where the CEO had left, and we had pretty much what I would call a black hole for a good 3, 4, maybe even 5 months of Multivac. There's lack of communication. No one knew what was going on. As investors, we were in a bear market, we're in a winter market. MTV is just not talking, and it's just spiraling out of control. We'll go on to that chart area momentarily, but in the last few months where we've been doing videos, can you believe the last Multivac video I did was a month ago? I can't believe it. I always think that I've done them like so recently, but it's literally a month ago. So there's been reports, like monthly reports since then, and some other activities which we'll go on to in a second. But one of the key aspects I wanted to drill home, because you should give credit where credit is due and mark improvements. The communication, albeit still quite low and slow, is improving as we go along. Even some of the visuals coming out are really nice as well. So there's always a lot of talk in between. Like I would call them gap fillers. Multivac just pushing out information about NFTs and things like this. So actually, if you look at my scroller here, there's not a massive gap between the top and the bottom here. Between, like, for example, June the 15th and all the way up to here in August the 4th, not a lot of information has been coming out. However, the information that has been coming out has been of relatively good importance and development. And in the bear markets and the winter markets, to speak like firsthand, because I work in this space myself, this is the great time to begin or continue or push the development side of things. Sometimes it means some projects go quiet depending on the size and the resources available within their teams. Now, on paper, as I've always said, Multivac is a formidable opportunity and solution, provided that it sticks to its guns and it promises to deliver on what it aspired to be throughout, when it puts things on websites, white papers, roadmaps, all of these things. Now, we know the roadmap took some time for them to update, and people weren't too happy with the delivery of it a few months back, if you remember. But regardless, it was updated and we had a bit more clarity as to what Multivac were doing. And in my mind, it was quite clear that they were focusing on development. They have a lack of resource, a lack of team that they would perceive to probably want to have, despite our frustrations and things. The fact of the matter is, in business and projects, and especially in a bear market and winter market, this is actually somewhere where you probably don't really hire people because you don't know what's around the corner. And that can be seen across the whole entire market. If you look at the likes of Coinbase and or some of the big exchanges out there, like releasing people, removing people, whether they're contractors or full-timers, doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, everyone is feeling that pinch, not just in the real world and the macro level events and all the things like fuel hikes, tax hikes, interest hikes. It happens as well in this space, and it's showing, in my opinion, the perhaps the not I wouldn't call it like crumbling factor of crypto. I would say the fragility, the fragileness of the space that we're in. It's still so early, and still people are figuring out what's going on. How do we work our teams? Do we attribute the way we work in these projects where we would normally work in a other world situation, business type thing? So there's loads of things to consider in that aspect. But as I said, some of the credit to be given to Multivac is, the updates are improving. They're becoming more regular. This one being from only a about a week or so ago from the July report, the monthly project report, about the mainnet upgrade. So this is looking like it's an advancement on the month before. Still not fully finished, I don't think, but it's showing some progress. People might be thinking I'm clutching at straws or something to try and keep the momentum of Multivac going. I do believe in its technology, and as I said in many videos before in the last month or so, is yes, in my opinion, this is a risk asset for me personally in my portfolio. I purchased into Multivac at higher regions towards the end of last year, and I believe still that the price will be good in the future. The advantage right now is we're in the winter market and we can accumulate Multivac in a higher rate quicker, and I do want to try and get to that million mark to try and get one of the nodes, because you do need 1 million MTV tokens to be able to do that. So there's ambitions there, but I'm also being cautious, which we'll go on to in a moment with the chart, as to why I feel this is still a bit of a risk in the sense of all the things that have gone in this year. But that doesn't mean that some investments that we have in our portfolios aren't or are risks. I guess everything is a risk at the end of the day because you don't know what's around the corner, but there's some you can assess and go, well, okay, I believe in what I'm seeing and reading, and hopefully they'll come out with that, but I also need to anticipate my investment based on that judgment, based on that assessment and all the research that I have done. And this goes for as well other people's opinions. Your opinions out there matter just as much as mine do, and I do read everyone's comments. I do read everyone's pros and cons about various different projects, but whether they're in the comments of our channel, videos on the channel or elsewhere, because that's how you come to a proper open-minded conclusion. You don't just listen to yourself all the time, you listen to others, then you take all those bits of information and you conclude them yourself with what you believe and what you have researched and people's criteria of, as I said, pros and cons. So right now, Multivac, I will accumulate consistently, but not inject as much capital as I would have perhaps last year. Just being cautious, still taking advantage of these lower points, but being clever in the mind how we do this. So these kind of things are really good for me because it gives a bit more depth to what they're up to, and it's nice to see as well Dr. Sean here, one of the key, well, I think he's now the CEO, obviously, talking in an AMA fashion here. Yes, some of this is taken from some previous or recent AMAs, but the fact of the matter is some conversations are coming from that team. Some people still have concerns that some of the team doesn't exist. And I can totally feel that. Like if you haven't had consistent communication with people, you're like questioning things and they're not even answering to those, totally get where people's frustrations have been coming from. But for me, I do take these variations of information and how things have been done into my investment. That's back to my point about being conscious and open-minded and clever with how much you're investing, when and how and why. So interesting to see. And of course here as well, DEX listing, this is really exciting. You're going to see a lot of projects doing this in these winter markets because usually the exchanges themselves are desperate for money, desperate for listings. It's not free usually to have a listing. You have to go through a big process and chuck a load of money in there for various different aspects of the launch, the marketing, everything. So it's going to be interesting to see which DEX this may land upon. This was back from July's report, and I haven't seen anything since to identify that there's any DEX offering just yet. But let's keep an eye out for it. But yeah, in a nutshell, the communication, albeit slow, is starting to improve. And also some of the assets that they're bringing out. It's clear as day to me that there's a lack of a marketing team across the board, but they're doing the best they can with the resource. And like I said, I totally understand why they're probably not bringing people in just yet, because they want to get everything developed, everything ready, and then they can start building. And to reiterate actually as well, a point that someone has made a couple of times actually on our MTV videos is, can you explain the ecosystem of MTV? And it's a really valid point. And I just wanted to draw attention to, yes, they've got a big, massive NFT offering here with loads of different potential games being launched on here, loads of different NFTs. But at this stage, that's as far as it goes. And you have to understand something. If you take a step back, we're looking at Multivac as the prime example here. But I've seen many other chains, many other scaling solutions similar to this. And this feels like when I started investing originally in things like VeChain and things like Zilliqa, I could see the potential. And for a long, long time, it was always on writing. It was always on websites, but you could never actually see. You could see partnerships delivered in the background, but you couldn't see any like full-on engagement or actual like utility of that partnership or ecosystem building. We fast forward, I think probably good 3-4 years now that I've been holding Zilliqa, and we see a huge ecosystem in place, some amazing projects, and the technology of Zilliqa is only just beginning. It's going to have a fantastic future. This is how I feel like Multivac is right now when Zilliqa was a few years ago. This is just an example. I could name many, many more projects that are similar like this, where you're looking at paper, you're looking at white paper, and you're making a judgment or perhaps a speculative judgment and investment on something that is arguably at this stage a promise. It's like a promise of a solution and what we're going to try and achieve together. And hopefully, as investors or people who are interested in this technology and project, will stick with it and see the fruits or bear the fruits or reap the rewards, as they say, in the future. That's what I'm hoping for. So to answer that person's question who said, like, can we prove what the ecosystem of Multivac is? Well, yes, there are some absolute snippets in here of what they're achieving in the background. I don't really see this as very unique because pretty much all chains now offer NFT solutions, marketplaces, all this kind of stuff. So I'm more interested now in seeing the completion of development of Multivac. This is very important to understand. It's like veracity. People will say like, what's actually happening, but you're not looking far into the future enough, in my opinion, when we think about it this way. We all want to see big projects, partnerships, ecosystems. But to build an ecosystem, you need the foundation of the technology and the solution in the first place. Otherwise, businesses aren't going to come to you to be on your chain, to be on your scalability solution, whatever solution you're bringing to the table. This is just an example. Multivac is just what the topic of this video is. So if you haven't got these things in place, whether it's the nodes, the blockchain itself that you're using, or the systems that you're using, and even indeed the team, why would a company come to you? So they're being quiet to us as retail investors, but it doesn't mean that they're not developing in the background. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt here because I know with working in this space how projects have been reacting to the market, reacting to their audiences, and some have been doing really good stuff with like engagement and this, that, and the other. But if you don't have the resource, you can be stuck. And if all their resources being poured right into now, because they have an investment, they have investment from seed rounds, angel rounds, whatever, us as investors with token holdings and staking and this, that, and the other, they're not really going to go anywhere right now. It's more of a fact of utilizing that money, that fund, to develop and formulate and finalize the technology so then you can approach from a BDM perspective. Look at Veracity, for example. Fantastic project, great CEO, but it's only fairly recently that they hired BDMs to build the business development. That's what they're there for. And I feel, don't hold me to every word here, but I feel that if Multivac can concentrate the rest of the next few months or even the year to focus on finalizing this development, getting it sorted, I guarantee to you, whether it be in the next 6 months or 12 months, you will start to see some BDMs being added because they will want to grab the business and say, hey guys, we're ready. This is the technology. This is the unique proposition that we have over anyone else. So that's something to think about and ponder about when you make an investment. Think about where they are, why they are, and how they are at this moment in time. How do they get to this position? And then think about what's the potential future development of this and what we can be potentially achieving, not just from a price point perspective, but technologically, and more importantly, to get money into the business, you have to have business coming in from whether it be partners, solution partners, or your clients. So this is something we really must start considering as investors. I feel like we're maturing as investors together, and over the last few years I've learned a lot to be actually taking a step back and thinking the approach of what I would normally do in a general business direction. is how the business operate, and then identifying that actually why is it's so bad right now, all the different factors, and then thinking about 6 months, 12 months ahead. If they do this, this, and this, and they bring these people in, this is where we could get to. So that's why I'm holding on to Multivac and still accumulating, but being cautious. Let's have a look at the chart, guys, before we wrap this video up. So key points here. We have had actually an increase with MTV. Not massive, but we'll pinpoint on here the price range increase. Let's take it back. We usually take it about a month away. It's kind of pointless on a macro level to an extent. There's a good 46-50% from these lower regions. And since these lower regions that we see back here around mid-June, it has been quite steady and slightly up as well. And we'll go into performance indicators on the right hand side here in a second, but let's look where we come from. This is quite substantial information really, because we've had this big uptake, all the different Multivac announcements in this period of time. Here's around the time where I got into MTV, because I was super excited. I thought, well, this is going to be fantastic. We got to the high dizzy heights of 3 cents, and then it came crashing down like the rest of the market. It's not just Multivac, but we make the critical point here again, if you missed the previous videos that we did, is we were matching these areas here back in 2020. Okay, not quite as low as I thought we would when we would hit these areas back in February 2021. I thought we were going to come down to this area. It might still happen, but at this stage, it's almost like, because there's so much investment in the staking aspect of MTV, and people are still thinking, I've made such a loss on MTV, like I have probably, that there's no point in selling. Might as well just wait and hold it. They always say only invest what you can afford to lose, and that's exactly what I did with MTV. And so for me, it's like money gone out of my head. That's the strategy I had. The money's gone out of my head. I'm at a loss. What is the point in selling? Just wait for it. Yes, I could argue that I could just sell it now if it comes down lower and I've saved money, whatever. But there's no point in the circumstances that I am personally in with Multivac. You might have a different strategy based on your intakes and your accumulations, etc. So right now, we put this in one of the previous videos, probably about a couple months ago, suggesting this area of real stability. This is really important. We can't break this barrier too many times. And what's really interesting to see on this red line here is arguably 1, 2, 3 areas of resistance on the way down. Showing support at this level is fantastic. We took ourselves up a couple of times to see if we could push ourselves to the other levels. It wasn't enough. It's like a magnet. This red line is like a magnet. We tried this upward trajectory when some other updates came in, and it pulled itself straight back down here. But the rejection was clear as day on 2 occasions, arguably, in 2 days of succession as well, that this red line is a really good support level. We're now testing this area, in my opinion, back here at 0.0012, and this is judged in my mind based on the movements in the last month or two, but also this interesting area back here in July, August 2020. Yes, I'm going back as far as that. Why? I'll reiterate the point that I made in previous videos. When we had this upward trajectory, my point is this is a black hole void. It means that as of now, this point here, anything upwards, it could be absolute chaos. It could be absolutely brilliant. It could be absolutely terrible. But one thing's for sure is no matter what, in any chart, you have to try and find support lines. And quite clearly, there's not enough support at this area. So there's no doubt in my mind that we were coming back down to these areas. We even drew them on the way down, if you remember, as this was happening. So to get back up to these high levels, which will, by the way, see a lot of resistance, I'm sure, at 0.002 when we eventually get back there. But right now, it's important to judge and understand that we are testing grounds that we haven't seen for almost 2 years. So we have to identify and confirm these support lines before we can start driving ourselves up, to other heights. But if we pull it out, I think this looks like a bit of a heart monitor. It's almost like someone's died, and they're not dead actually. There's some movement there in the heart. We're just waiting for the big bumps of pulsing to come back in to try and pull us up into a more of a rhythmic kind of feel and visualness to this chart. So that's a nice little metaphor, isn't it? So this is where we are in terms of like where do I want to enter back into MTV? Well, I do always have buy orders in here, but in the grand scheme of things, these price differences, although they look really big on charts when you're zoomed in, there's really not a big difference here at all. My accumulation is not really massively focused like it is with Rusty in the earlier video that we did today. I said there's pretty much the same point, is that the price differences aren't really huge enough to warrant me worrying about whether I'm buying up here at 0.0015 or down here at 0.0010. I think I got that right. But if you're a short-term trader, you're a day trader, an hour trader, it probably makes a big difference depending on the amount that you're accumulating and putting in and out, not just monetary wise, but unit wise as well. So for me, it's like any of these areas right now, I'm bolstering the accumulation. As I said, I'm not going mad. I'm just being cautious because we might drop ourselves back down here, and that's when it might make a significant impact to the amount that you're putting in. So that's where I do have a mini buy order in there. But like I said, it's not something particularly I'm checking daily. I don't see Multivac rising significantly high, majestically upwards in the next couple of months because the whole market is like this. And we've got to understand what's going on in the world as well that affects everything. So on those points, we also look at the RSIs very quickly before I wrap this up. The 14-day and the 90-day are still quite low in my opinion. This still indicates, particularly on the 14-day, that we're going to have a bit more fluctuation to occur before there's any proper buying and selling patterns. It's clear as day as well on the MACD here in the background that it's just match for match really. We've had a bit of a sell-off. This is proving my point that people can't be bothered to sell it. They're just waiting. They're buying in and buying in because of these low prices when they probably get paid, and maybe one or two other moments in the month. Bit of a sell-off because of the slight uptake that we had, and then it's back into the green business here. And on the final note, 28-day at 52, this is too limbo for me, right slap bang in the middle of 100 pretty much. It's suggesting to me that I do not want to be going mad here because there's an argument of up and down. If this was really low 28-day still, like we saw back here when it was 29.30, all day long I'd be buying it. But right now, I'm being cautious. That's what I'm doing. However, the performances on the right hand side are showing some good positivity for MTV on both the weekly and the monthly. Not many projects can boast this. And the 3 months itself as well is coming down. If you remember the videos we did ages ago, maybe even 2 months, 1 month ago, this number was significantly higher in terms of its negativity. As was the 6 months, this is still relatively poor and still very near to what it used to be over the last few months. So we've got a long way to go, guys. And that's another point to make, is because we've got a long way to go, these are good areas potentially of purchasing, provided you are clever with it and sustainable in your minds with it. So that's all I can say really, guys. Not financial advice, just opinions and my experience and what I am doing and not doing in these markets, and particularly with MTV, as this is the topic. We're going to wrap that up there, guys. Sorry it's a bit of a long one, but I think we had to reiterate and accumulate some points here for everyone. It's been a month since the last one, so a bit to catch up on. Thanks for watching, guys. We will indeed see you in the next Multivac video. Take care, and we'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.